Tristan is an encourager, he's a helper, he's an enabler, and he's someone that makes things happen.
I think quite like empowering, like he empowers others. He has obviously a big role himself, but actually he empowers others to take on, you know, probably more than they think that they can, because he sees the potential and he like wants to empower them to do that. And energetic. I think you've got to be when you run a charity like he does, full of energy, and will always give everything his 100%, no matter what it is. Like he will give it his all.
His vision for Bridge the Gap is, like, whenever you hear him talk about it, you can hear his passion for it, and you can see that his vision for it is crazy. Like, he wants to see it go international. He doesn't just want guys to come and play football and hang out for an hour. He wants to see people have an encounter with Jesus and have their lives properly transformed and become followers and become leaders for the rest of their life. Caring, because I think the reason that we do Bridge the Gap is because we care. We care for young men. We don't want mental health to have the effect on society that it's having at the moment. And even if we transform one guy's life at Bridge the Gap Hearts, like, that matters. And I think Tristan knows that. Like, we save one guy's life from, you know, knowing that he has a community, and maybe that changes the direction he's going in because of Bridge the Gap. Like, that's because I think Tristan's started this because he cares about people, and enthusiastic because, as I say, I think his vision for Bridge the Gap comes from his passion for football and knowing that that brings people together. And I think he's got such an enthusiasm for what he does, and that's what drives Bridge the Gap.
I think for me, I always played football from a young age. Always grew up being quite a hyperactive child, always running around, getting lost from my parents, sometimes maybe being a little bit of trouble or people having no clue where I was. Going to youth group camps most of like summer months and sort of throughout sort of half terms and various things, being involved in youth groups. Grew up in a Christian family, so my family have always been Christian, going to church, so church was quite a big part of my life from a young age. Specifically remember going to places like Soul Survivor, which are like youth camps with like sort of over 10,000 people, and just kind of playing football, playing in the five-a-side tournaments and various things like that. So that's kind of probably my main childhood memories. One day I felt like God said to me, "You're going to go to South Africa," and at that time I didn't think much of it, but this girl the following day then stopped me from going onto the football pitch, and I said, and basically come up to me and said, "I feel like God's telling you to go to South Africa," and gave me these 2 leaflets. I think for me, that's when I was 18, that's when I realised God was real. And then from there, I actually come home speaking to my parents, and the long story short, there was someone from my church who was going to South Africa to run football tournaments. So I said, "Can I come with you?" And he said yes. And so I ended up on a plane to South Africa, and that's where the vision of Bridge the Gap kind of was birthed. Basically, I felt like God said to me, one day we're going to have this football program with thousands of people coming through every single week, and then how do we actually then bridge the gap between where we play football and the church? So Bridge the Gap was founded in September 2019 in Southampton and Portsmouth, and then in February 2020 we become a registered charity.
I think obviously we know through our faith and through being Christians that actually if we are in a place of mental health or well-being, that actually there's only one person that can truly transform that, which is why we bring in the stream of Alpha, which becomes the bridge between the football pitch and the church. You know, we don't preach on the pitch. That's not what we're about. We just want to create a space for men to come. You know, we represent Jesus and our beliefs and our values through the way we honour them, the way we serve them, then they come, the connections that we make with them. You know, some of those men have never had consistency in their lives. You know, for some of the guys, you know, they shared actually just having that one night in the week that was consistent where they knew they could come and they could play football was like massively what they needed alone. It wasn't about the football, it was actually having that consistency of, I know on a Monday night I go and I play football and I go and find my community and find that friendship there. Male suicide is the highest for men under 45. 1 in 8 suffer from mental health illness. They won't go and see a GP for help, most young men, but they will actually open up in a trusted sports group. That's what research says. So we are in the right place, we're doing the right things. We've heard many people say this is like the freedom of a week when they're suffering from depression or whatever that looks like. This is a time that they can come and actually be part of a welcoming community. So we know we're in the right space, and actually ultimately, yes, this will go further than just young men between 18 and 30s, whether that's youth and women's and various other things. But I think with the space we're in at the minute, we're hitting the right market for sure.
Actually, you're not really asking them to do these forms. We're just kind of in the check.
You just add it to your check-in.
Done.
Yeah, great.
So,
Which is naturally what you do in a check-in anyway. So
Yeah.
But if you use a name like that, it would be BTG Cardiff with 1, 2, 3 as a pass.
that's what I'm saying. That's a bit technical.
I remember week 1. Our sort of volunteer team were like in the chat, and even before the session, like how many people you were expecting, because at that stage we had no booking system. It was just like come play, like if anyone's welcome. And I remember we had like 24 come on week 1, and like which was way. I think I was like, if we get 10, I'm buzzing. Like 5v5, we can do it. And I remember the session well because. It was actually a lot of my friends from Southampton and like other people inviting their friends, so there was a little bit of a community that was built already. But then we had lots of new faces kind of coming through every single week, and the community built quite quickly. But I do remember one of my closest friends who did an Alpha course and actually become a Christian through kind of being part of the British Gap community in the last few years. He come and like was like far away, like was involved in drugs and a hectic lifestyle. And I actually remember setting him up, and he scored, but it's the first ever British Gap goal. So in a way, one of my best mates scored the first ever British Gap goal, and then I set it up. So it's kind of like a fairy tale moment. So yeah, it was good fun. So our vision by 2025 is to have 50 sites across the UK. So that gets me excited, that keeps me motivated, because we will pretty much have 20 in the next few months, and then each year we'll launch 10 new sites every single year. So our national tournament events are the best events of the year, because seeing everyone come together from across the country, we had 24 teams last year, travel from far and wide to be at this event, to then sit in the stand with like DJs going on and all the games playing, being like, wow, we've only been going a couple of years and this is incredible.
And your winners of the Focus Adults Tournament 2022, Southampton.
My biggest achievement since starting Bridge the Gap, I think running the charity dinner. I run charity dinners in my previous job. It was the first charity dinner that Bridge the Gap had run. I know Catherine, our chair of trustees, was amazing. She did a lot of the legwork before I'd started in regards to securing the venue and stuff. But then actually being handed that responsibility to run the charity dinner, their first ever one, was amazing. It was an absolutely fantastic night. We had a young guy, Tom Curtin, who came down from Brighton to share his testimony of the impact that Bridge the Gap has made in his life. And I only cry in the car. I was on the side of that stage with tears in my eyes. It was so incredible. And I'd known Tom, I had met him at a couple of other events, but actually never really heard his story and actually the direct impact that Bridge the Gap had made in his life. And to, be in that room with our incredible donors and supporters, which we've, had come through over just the few years that we've existed, to be able to actually hear the massive amount of impacts that's happened in this short amount of time. It's encouraging to know that actually it's just the start. And we raised over £50,000 from, it was about 80 people in the room that came. So that just shows like the kindness and the generosity of the people there, and how, impactful that the stories like from Tom and Catherine spoke and Tristan spoke, that they came away from that night really invested in us and what we're doing at Bridge the Gap. Was again, it's encouraging for us that actually they're so kind of in awe of everything that Bridge the Gap is doing, that they felt that they could give and support us in our vision to continue to do what we're doing. So yeah, that was definitely a highlight.
I think ultimately we want to create spaces where what's going on in the world with football it can be quite negative, especially with all the human rights and slavery and stuff that's happening with the World Cup in Qatar, with racism that's been a massive thing over the last few years and will continue to be in football. Actually, the homophobic and how we treat women and all these sort of things. These are things that are topics that are happening on a wide scale. So actually, for us, how can we completely come away from the negative culture that football can bring, and even the aggression that football can bring? So, I'd go from games and I'd get absolutely smashed, and people would want to have a fight with me. That's not the environments we want to create. We want to create a space where people can walk off and actually friendships are being built, leaders are being developed, and actually then we'll see transformation in people's lives.
So we look forward to seeing you again next year, where we'll be having an under-14s, under-18s and adults. They're all mixed tournaments. We can't wait to see you again next year. Enter a team from your church and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Take care.
When you start another location, you always want the leaders to fully invest into it, and actually really bring it on and actually become the culture and the DNA is in it. I think with Dave and James, it's been the easiest thing. They've just got it from the beginning. It's it's part of their life. It's not just this thing they do on a Monday or Tuesday night. Sorry for them, but it's actually this is their daily thing. They're trying to engage these people, and I think they've grown massively over the last few weeks, and they will continue to grow. And I think what's exciting is they are really building a community that's strong there, and it's actually a matter of a couple of weeks that they've been going. So it's exciting to see where that will be in a year's time, 2 years' time.
We launched towards the beginning of September, and we thought this was a good time because schools were back, people were kind of back from the August sort of rhythm that always shifts and holidays and everything like that. So we've had a lot of people, in fact the majority of people that come aren't of faith at all. And we've seen and heard some incredible stories of people coming either to the football itself or the kind of associated socials that we've been running on the theme of football. And I can think of a couple of people in particular who have basically said, we're going to start coming to church as a result of this because they found something in the community that just looks and feels different. And they've said to us that there's something different about the community that we're building. And that place of encouragement has really allowed them to go, you know what, I might give that a try.
Halfway there. You're doing great, man. Bridge the gap. Come and join us. Hashtag.
Whenever any new guy turns up at Bridge the Gap, we have a conversation with them, and we make sure all the other leaders have a conversation with them, and we really get to know them, and we have a chat within the first hour of them getting there, and that they have a great time playing football and feel like they're so welcome. Doesn't matter if they're a baller or if they're not that great at football. You know, we've had a few guys turn up that we've invited that aren't even interested in football, but they just needed someone to come and hang out with a group of guys for an hour, and that's what we want to be. And I know for so many years of my life, that would have made such a difference to me.
The process of selecting where we were going to play football was a really challenging, difficult one. All the pitches that we really liked were already snapped up. So all the prime slots were basically gone. So we really were going, where on earth can we possibly go? And we've been talking to Hitchin Town Football Club, which run the arena in Baldock, and we were like, oh, is Baldock just too far? What are we going to do about that? But we realised that when you look at a map, that Baldock and where the arena is in Baldock is on the main road connecting Hitchin, Letchworth and Baldock. So it's easy to get to, it's kind of in the middle of North Hertfordshire. So we thought maybe that's worth a try. So we managed to secure a third of a pitch at the arena on a Tuesday night from 6 till 7, which then became our home.
Have you got Dante? Smallly at the back as usual. Yeah, solid. Left side at the back. I reckon. You sure? Right.
Part of what we do and what we say to our volunteers across the country is if someone comes for the first time to Bridge the Gap and they've not been welcomed within the first minute, we've done something wrong. When you actually go to a party or a gathering or something of some sort and no one says hello to you and you're on your own and you've only just walked through your door, it's quite an uncomfortable environment. You actually want someone to engage with you, or you feel like you've got to actually go and interrupt a conversation. So actually for us, we want to make sure that is intentionally what we're doing at all times, is thinking about the outsider who comes in for the first time and actually caring about them. And actually when we say how are you, there's actually weight behind that how are you. So actually tell me what's going on. I don't actually want to know what your Instagram says, I actually want to know how are you as a person.
Cold last week. I missed last week.
I think running charities is fun. There's a lot of stuff that I don't typically brings me joy, but actually when I see the small size, when I actually come down to the sites and see the sites, that's ultimately why we do what we do and the people that we care about. So yes, there's lots of fundraising and HR and safeguarding and speaking to lawyers and accountants and all of that sort of big scale stuff. which is actually ultimately what we need to continue to grow the organisation, to make sure we've got the foundation of that right. If I'm honest, sometimes I don't actually know the full picture of what it's going to look like. But I think my dream is this. It will go across every country in the world and every nation. I think that's something we'd like to do, big scale. Like I think actually we'd love to build football facilities, and actually take over like a warehouse in Southampton and build an indoor football facility that's run by Bridge the Gap. So that's something we'd like to do sometime in the next few years. And actually then we'd love to set up sites across the world. So actually building a 3G facility in somewhere like South Africa, and there's a community hub next to it, and it's called the Bridge or whatever that looks like, and actually how do we support a community in this area where football actually is such a big part of that. And actually, I don't know, I think ultimately we're going to be engaging with thousands of people, and actually we can branch out to like organisations like Sky Sports and whatever, so it's not, we can actually bring sort of like the secular world of football and Sky and all of these organisations. And yes, we're a small Christian organisation, but we want to partner with these people and actually share the message of what we believe and what our values are.